An IDF soldier was killed and 6 others wounded in an explosive drone strike by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, marking a serious escalation despite the ongoing ceasefire. The fallen soldier was identified as 19-year-old Sergeant Idan Fuchs from the city of Petah Tikva.
The Middle East is once again standing on the edge of a dangerous escalation, and this time the warning came from the skies over southern Lebanon. Hezbollah drones reportedly struck Israeli soldiers near the border, marking one of the most serious confrontations in recent weeks and sending a clear message that the fragile calm between the two sides may be collapsing faster than many expected. What had been a tense standoff filled with threats, speeches, and limited exchanges is now turning into something far more direct, far more unpredictable, and potentially far more costly for everyone involved. According to multiple reports, Hezbollah launched explosive drones targeting Israeli forces operating inside southern Lebanon. Israeli sources confirmed casualties in recent incidents, including wounded personnel and at least one fatal attack earlier this week. The use of drones is especially significant because it reflects a shift in battlefield tactics.
On the latest fighting in Lebanon amid President Trump's declared 3-week extended ceasefire.
These are not symbolic rocket launches fired from distance. These are precision tools meant to hunt targets, bypass defenses, and create fear among troops on the ground. In modern conflict, drones have changed everything, and now the Israel-Lebanon front is feeling that reality in real time. For weeks, both sides had been locked in a cycle of controlled hostility. Israel continued military operations and airstrikes in southern Lebanon, saying Hezbollah infrastructure remained active and dangerous. Hezbollah, meanwhile, accused Israel of violating ceasefire understandings and promised that continued attacks would be answered with force. Many observers believed both sides wanted pressure without full war. But history shows that in this region, controlled escalation rarely stays controlled for long. One drone strike, one miscalculation, one major casualty can rapidly shift the political equation. What makes this moment even more serious is timing. The wider region is already dealing with deep instability. Gaza remains tense. Iran and Israel continue their shadow conflict. Diplomacy between Washington and Tehran has stalled. Maritime security concerns remain active. Syria is still fragmented. In such an environment, the Israel-Lebanon border is not an isolated front. It is connected to every larger strategic rivalry in the Middle East. When tensions rise here, capitals across the world start paying attention immediately. Israeli military planners now face a difficult challenge. Hezbollah has long been known for rockets and missile stockpiles, but drones create a different kind of threat. They are cheaper, flexible, hard to detect, and psychologically powerful. A soldier in a fortified position can still feel exposed when small attack drones are overhead. Reports suggest some of these systems use guidance methods that reduce the effectiveness of electronic jamming. That means traditional countermeasures may not be enough. Israel has world-class air defense systems, but defending against swarms of small, low-cost drones is one of the hardest problems in modern warfare. For Hezbollah, these strikes also serve a political purpose. The group wants to show supporters that it remains active, capable, and willing to confront Israel despite months of pressure. It wants to project resilience after repeated Israeli operations. It also wants leverage inside Lebanon, where debates over war, sovereignty, and Hezbollah's armed status continue. By demonstrating battlefield relevance, Hezbollah strengthens its internal narrative that it is still a necessary force in Lebanon's defense structure. Whether critics accept that argument is another matter entirely. Lebanon itself remains trapped in the middle. The country is dealing with economic collapse, political paralysis, and institutional weakness. Many Lebanese fear another full-scale war more than anything else. Southern communities have already suffered displacement, infrastructure damage, and uncertainty. Every new strike raises the possibility that civilians will once again pay the highest price for decisions made by armed actors and political leaders. The government in Beirut often finds itself watching events rather than controlling them. Israel, meanwhile, faces pressure from its own public. Residents in northern areas want security, stability, and guarantees that border threats will not continue indefinitely. Political leaders promise strength, deterrence, and decisive responses. But military action alone has not produced a lasting solution. Every strike may remove immediate threats while also fueling future retaliation. That cycle has defined this frontier for decades, and many Israelis know that tactical victories do not always become strategic peace. This is where the real danger begins. When drone attacks wound soldiers, commanders feel pressure to respond harder. When airstrikes hit Lebanon, Hezbollah feels pressure to answer. Each side believes restraint can look like weakness. Each side fears that backing down invites more attacks. That logic pushes escalation step by step, often without anyone openly choosing war. It happens through momentum, pride, domestic politics, and revenge. And if you follow global affairs closely, subscribe this channel because moments like this can reshape the entire region faster than most people realize. The international community will likely push urgently for de-escalation. The United States, France, and regional mediators know that another Israel-Hezbollah war would be devastating. The last major conflict showed how quickly infrastructure can be destroyed and populations displaced. Today, the weapons are more advanced, the political climate is more polarized, and the room for diplomatic error is smaller. That means the consequences of a wider war could be even worse than before. Military analysts are also watching how warfare itself is evolving. The battlefield is no longer dominated only by tanks, jets, and artillery. Cheap drones, surveillance systems, precision strikes, cyber tools, and information warfare now shape outcomes. Non-state groups can challenge advanced militaries in ways once considered impossible. Hezbollah's drone operations are part of that transformation. Even limited attacks can generate headlines, fear, tactical disruption, and strategic messaging far beyond their cost. Another important factor is misreading intentions. Israel may interpret drone strikes as preparation for broader confrontation. Hezbollah may interpret Israeli troop movements as preparation for larger offensives. In conflict zones, perception often matters as much as reality. Decisions get made under pressure with incomplete intelligence in highly emotional environments. That is when mistakes become wars. There is also the question of endurance. How long can both sides continue limited confrontation without exhausting resources or political patience? Border communities on both sides are under strain. Businesses slow down, schools face disruptions, and families live under constant uncertainty. Even when battles remain limited, the social and economic damage keeps growing quietly in the background. So, what happens next? There are three likely paths. First, contained escalation. More strikes, more retaliation, but no full war. Second, negotiated calm. Mediators pressure both sides to step back and restore informal rules. Third, uncontrolled expansion. One deadly incident triggers a larger campaign involving air power, missile barrages, and mass displacement. Right now, all three remain possible. The most probable short-term scenario may be continued limited conflict. Neither side appears eager for total war, but neither side seems willing to stop using force either. That creates a dangerous middle ground where violence continues just below the threshold of catastrophe. Unfortunately, that threshold can disappear overnight. For ordinary people living near the border, strategic theories mean little. They care about whether children can sleep, whether roads are safe, whether homes remain standing, whether tomorrow brings sirens or silence. Those voices are often drowned out by military statements and political speeches, but they are the voices that matter most. The drone strike in southern Lebanon may seem like one more headline in a region used to crisis. But sometimes a single incident reveals a much bigger truth. It shows that deterrence is weakening, it shows technology is changing the balance, it shows diplomacy is failing to keep pace with events, and it shows how quickly a frozen conflict can begin to melt into open confrontation. Tonight, military officials will review footage, politicians will issue warnings, and diplomats will make urgent calls behind closed doors. But the real question remains unanswered. Are the region's leaders trying to manage tensions, or are they drifting into another war without admitting it? Because if this latest strike is remembered as merely another exchange, the world moves on. But if it becomes the first chapter of something larger, then the skies over southern Lebanon may have just signaled the start of the Middle East's next major crisis.